Earlier this week, the National Bureau of Statistics, the NBS, released the 2023 report on internally generated revenue IGR. Now, this document contained vital information for development planning. But beyond the monthly federal allocations, how much do states generate to contribute to the overall growth and development of Nigeria? Tonight, Babajide Ogusawo, founder of Leadership by Data and Channels Television's data analyst, is here indeed to share more insight and the facts you should know. Babajide, great to have you again on the News at 10.
Good evening, Ayatunde.
So let's quickly get into it. So how much does this report, the 2023 NBS report on IGR, what does it really reveal on the state of IGR pertaining to all the states? Take for instance River State. Can it really rely solely on its IGR?
First is for Rivers, there's some good and some bad news. The good news is that if we look at this report, it tells us that River State generated more internally generated revenue than every other state except Lagos State. So when it comes to IGR, River State is up there. Good news. However, the bad news is when it comes to allocation from the federal government, River State as well collects more federal allocation than every other state except one state. And so within this report, it allows us to see that last year, for all of last year, 2023, federal allocation that goes to River State, that went to River State last year, over 300 billion naira. Over 300 billion naira. So we're looking at River State getting federal allocations of approximately 1 billion naira per day. So bad news if there are concerns if the state or its local governments will keep receiving money. Good news because we see River State up there compared to other states generating IGR. So, but beyond this, it's important to also take a look at the labor indicators in River State to really understand the challenges they face. We've seen the governor talking about the politics in River State is all about the resources,
state resources
of River State, and that might be correct. Like I said, 319 billion naira just to the states last year. No other state got that sort of money apart from Delta State. So let's take a look at the labor indicators that allows us to know potentially what might happen if monies do not go into the states. We clearly understand from the National Bureau of Statistics that there are 145,000 public sector employees. However, the challenge is that only represents 5% of the labor of those that have jobs in River State. So majority of workers in River State do not work for the government. The concerns, however, is that we have an excess of 4.5 million persons living in poverty. The state government needs funds to manage that. We also understand that we have those that should be in jobs, classified as job seekers, that not only don't have jobs, they're not in any educational or training program. Those sort of numbers, if the state is starved of funds, those numbers might go up. In simple terms, potentially crime numbers might go up if things are not properly managed in River State.
So how much is the rising inflation rate affecting governance, especially with execution of projects, within the states?
So that's interesting because that allows to see how much value is really being lost. If you take a look at only last year, we don't see the full picture. But I'd like us to take a look at inflation within this decade, talking about inflation since 2013 to date, because that really allows us to know how much value is being lost. So if you take a look at those inflation numbers, it clearly allows us to see, yes, inflation last year, 28.9%. However, look at the compound inflation rate since 2013. Compound inflation rate since 2013, 356%. The point I'm trying to make here, Ayotune, is that if within this 10-year period, states have not earned revenues, their revenue growth has not grown higher than 356%, then they are really losing value. So the question is, how many states have their internally generated revenue grown by as much as 356%? And as we discuss, as this conversation continues, I'll be able to share you the facts and why I'm worried.
Which brings me to the next question. Does the growth in IGR really mean that the states are really prosperous?
So there are several ways to look at that. But the first is that I am worried. And there are three reasons why I'm worried. The first reason is Looking at this internally generated revenue report and comparing it to what the same report of 2013, the Southwest in 2013 accounted for just 43% of all internally generated revenue. Now, the Southwest accounts for more than 50% of all internally generated revenue. In simple terms, internally generated revenue from only the Southwest is more than all the other 5 regions combined. The first reason why I'm worried. The second reason why I'm worried is the internally generated revenue of Lagos State last year is more than the internally generated revenue of 30 states combined. You heard me right. Internally generated revenue of Lagos State is more than the internally generated revenue of 30 other states combined. And the third and final reason why I'm worried is, let's take a look at the chart of the week, because it allows us to reflect on, is internally generated revenue really growing? Don't forget, I talked about 356% compound inflation rate in the last 10 years. So look at those numbers. In 2013, national internally generated revenue, 662 billion naira. We now have the report that shows 2.2 trillion naira. However, that isn't growth, because that shows a 235% growth nationally. However, inflation rates within the same period, 356%. So as a nation, 2013 was a much better year. Look across the regions, same thing. Southeast, IGR growth of 140%. However, compound inflation rate over 300%. South-South, same challenge. Northwest, same challenge. Southwest, same challenge, losing value. Only the Northeast has seen internally generated revenue within the 10-year period grow higher, go faster than inflation rate, and that is because within the 2013 year, their starting point was low, 21 billion naira, the lowest compared to all other regions. That was part of the challenges of Boko Haram. The Northeast was not getting much IGR. However, nationally, we've done worse. In the final analysis, the point is, Ayotini, my grandfather pointed me to the Bible passage, Matthew 25, if I'm right, chapter 14 to verse 30. The parable, the story of the parable of the talents. And we remember the story of the 5 talents, 2 talents, 1 talent, 5 talents multiplied, 2 talents multiplied, 1 talent hid his talent. If that man that had the 1 talent had a name, it will be called the Nigerian state. In simple terms, our state managers are losing value and the money isn't creating a lot of impact. It's illusion. It's just like this magic coin. It's all an illusion.
It's all an
money
illusion.
is an illusion.
We'll leave it at that. Babajide Ogunzo, thank you for your analysis again on the News at 10.
The pleasure is all mine.